A minute late. Wow, this is a lot of talk in the chat for a bunch of people who missed the last couple of episodes, but I am glad to see them here today um, in a brutal rainy day in New York. But we are going to do our best to heat it up and cook here. I am super stoked for my guest today. I saw his initial post on Twitter. It is never X, it's Twitter, and then I got to see the cover and the back of the book on Instagram, and we messaged each other probably within 45 seconds of each other. Him offering the arc and me requesting it because it looked sick, and I'm very happy to report it was sick. Definitely one of my favorite books that I've read recently, especially in this first half of the year. Technically the second, whatever it is. Second half of the year for sure, and probably one of the best debuts that I've ever read. Absolute fire. So I'm bringing him to the stage right now, Mr. Chance Dillon.
What an intro. Thanks so much, Pete. I appreciate that. Seriously, that means a lot. That was killer.
Of course, that's how it is. It makes it very easy when you guys actually cook that hard, and I don't even have to lie. Like that wasn't a plan. That was just talking about it, and it was, man. Mercy, wow. Tears of the Fallen, and an absolute beast of a book.
Oh, look at that puppy!
Beautiful. First off, cover is beyond sick. But why don't you give us a little bit of a background run on this?
On the cover.
I was going to say just the book in general, but also
yeah. No, I'll do that. So when I set out to write like a general background, it really started with a Dungeons and Dragons game that I played with friends in Lemoore. I was in the Navy, and I was living with some buddies. There were probably like 3 or 4 months till deployment. I had just started picking up Dungeons and Dragons, and I had a character, which is the third part of my prologue, which is notoriously, I don't want to say too much about it, but that was the backstory for my first ever D&D character, which was, by the way, like the way I played this character was not fun. Like you're playing like a Batman type, like darkness and vengeance, and it just becomes it's not fun for the other players. So I kind of picked up on that and changed eventually. And then I ran 2 tables of 8 players with the co-DM, so 16 players. In my universe, I set out rules. We started coming up with I have a whole character sheet that I still am sitting on, and I let the characters kind of get after it and let them kind of help me tell the story and help me kind of discover the world a little bit. And then they left on deployment. I had a torn hip labrum. My right hip labrum was torn, so I got surgery. My mom had come to visit me for 10 days. I was like in a weird relationship at the time. With a girl that had ended. It was a few years long, and then it was just like at that point it just hit a complete breaking point. And after my mom had left, I was just completely, like, honestly just really alone. And so I'm sitting in this chair with 10 days post hip surgery, I don't know, I was only 28, I think, when I had that surgery, maybe 29. And then I crushed upstairs, sat in the chair, and just kind of went back to some campaign notes I had in Alavist's story. And I just dove into the manuscript, and I was sitting down every day, putting at least 1,000 words a day in, until 6 months later, I had a draft with 220,000 words. I was like, 2023.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a backstory. So I was about to ask how long you've been working on it, but I guess the backstory and the building from the campaign was years in the making. But just hearing from start to finish with the manuscript with 6 months is wild for how big of a book that is.
Oh. Yeah, the first draft was 6 months. And a lot of that was just learning how to write as well in that time. And then you tack on some extra time in there to like really hone in the craft about as much as I possibly could without professional help. I did research. I listened to Sanderson's lectures. I read books. I watched endless videos on like screenwriting and honestly, Dungeon Master Guide like videos help a ton for people who are interested in writing. There's a ton of creativity you can find in there. Timothy Hickson's Hello Future Me, his on writing world building series on YouTube is great. And then I started drafting book 2, and I finished that in because I hit a point where with book 1 where I was like, okay, I need to finish book 2 to like figure out. I also just wanted to. I was excited. And then as soon as I finished drafting book 2, which again took the same amount of time, 6 months, then I shot my manuscript over to Dave Butler, my developmental editor. I did that in, I want to say September. No, maybe a little later. It might have been anywhere between like I think it was November, October, November ish of 24. And he's fast on the gun. He's like, it took him 7 days to get 230,000 words back to me, which was crazy. And then so I was like, okay, let me work through this. And I turned it around to him. He turned it around to me. Turned it around to him. And then he recommended me a copy editor. Went to the copy editor. That was about a 4 to 6 week turnaround. Had a proofreader kind of run through it, and that was the arc that people saw was that first proofread, which was probably in, I want to say April. I want to say like late April. And had another proofreader working on it while that was going on, who also actually happens to be an alpha reader. And she's great. And I'm just really, and here we are. The book released July 20th is a long way to get around that. And I'm also realizing before I sat down, right when you said we're about to go live, I have a Jets sweatshirt that I was going to throw on for this interview that I completely forgot to do. So, dang it.
I know. Mine's are all upstairs in the back of the closet until they end with a winning season, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to just give a shout out to, I know you're a big dad joke fan, and I kind of dropped the ball on that one. I asked for a backstory, and I was told it was a hip story, which is technically correct, but what are you going to do? But I have to give, we're getting a lot of boos from the chat, but we're getting boos from Patriots and Falcons fans. So does that even count?
Oh my gosh. I have my old buddy, he's a buddy still. He's a Falcons fan. I lived with him back in California. He was one of the guys that played in my D&D game, and we coexisted pretty well. We wanted each other's teams to succeed, and here I am sitting getting booed by Falcons fans.
I can't believe it.
Patriots
I know
fans,
it's a little.
I mean, you guys are. I mean, think about these last 5 years, 6 years. That's all you got.
Patriots.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get hate from a Falcons fan, especially from a good writer like ZB Steele. But in between the time that he has posted that comment and right now, his book has weirdly dropped a star rating on Goodreads. So, that's a little bit of a bummer. But one of the things I did want to mention, like I said at the start, this, as far as debuts go, is up there. I put in my review when I was going over your book. It's up there with The Darkness That Comes Before. It's up there with the first Malazan book. As far as just jumping into a book, and those came out, and I'm kind of trying to catch up. And this is the first series where I feel like it's going to go that way, and I'm there from day one, and I'm pumped about it. But this is going to be a massive undertaking. But I know with the background of the D&D campaign and everything like that, what made you not so confident, because that's a great word, and I'm very happy that you felt like you could pull it off, and you did, but what made you want to go that route of, this is such a massive undertaking, and I'm just ripping it and going for it?
Yeah, I don't know. There really was no other choice for me. I'd seen George Martin stuff on like writing smaller, like do smaller projects. I'd seen other authors mention it, and I'm just like, yeah, but this is the story that I'm telling at the end of the day. And that's really all I focus on. It's like, I didn't care how much of a writer I was at the beginning, which I wasn't a very good one. I still have room to get better. I think I will always have room to get better. But the fact at the beginning that I felt like this is the story that needed to be told. And then I just started opening the eyes of other perspectives, if you know what I mean. Like I started looking at if I wrote a character in a scene, and I started asking myself what was their story. And so once I put myself in their shoes and started writing through them, the story just expanded and expanded and expanded. And I love a narrative like Elden Ring's narrative, where like the narrative itself is sort of it's more subtle, but the structure of it is like you have no idea where you are, and you have to put your feet on the ground and figure it out. I love that concept. That's like my favorite part of it. There was definitely room early on in earlier drafts. Like I believe it or not, I pulled a ton of terms out which maybe makes sense. I pulled a ton of terms out early on in earlier drafts, and then through editing and revising, we sort of cleaned up like sort of like a quote unquote, it's not seamless, but I'm going to use the word seamless way to introduce these concepts and then pay them off later, like through dialogue and through like very small increments of exposition, whether it be by a character or some sort of inner dialogue. That was kind of what I was looking for, like that sort of story. And I really, when it came to like lore dumps, I wanted to be allergic to them. I wanted to be allergic to exposition of like a certain kind of just like, here's this really cool thing I think is really cool. And so how do I present it to the reader in a way that makes them feel a part of it and enrolled in it, rather than just me telling you what it is? And there's some ups and downs to that, of course, and maybe I wasn't so perfect at it. But it was a long road, and I definitely felt more comfortable and confident as I went that this was a story that needed to be told. At the end of the day, like, there was no choice of going smaller, really.
Yeah, and I would say, as far as that method of storytelling, there's always room to grow, like you've said, and everything. But for jumping in and really letting someone come to terms with it on their own and learn the lore on their own and everything, without doing you've made it to our group, this is the history of it, where it goes on for 5 pages and you're like, oh yeah, like I can't believe I have to read this right now. This was really awesome to find out. And it's funny that, even like when you see the 4, 3 stars, those type of things, it's like everything's good. It just was a lot to get into, but it's like, that's not a negative for me when you set out to do that. It's like, that's almost like obviously it's a personal preference thing, but as the author who set out to do it, it's like, nice. Like, that's almost like you could brush that off, because that means you hit what you wanted to do.
Exactly. I get it's not like everybody's favorite style. I just love like sprinkling in information here, a sentence here that's going to mean something in a book or two. Like I think those sorts of things are fun to play with, and also I think it's important to mention that it was an exercise for me as a writer to challenge myself. To how can I expose on something without directly telling you what it is? How do I get you to infer or in some way, like maybe the shape of it, and then you can decide what that means for yourself. That was like a really cool exercise for me, and it is cool how it's worked out so far.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This was up there with, I read the God's Blood Tragedy earlier in the year, and both books are tomes, like massive. And it took until that same part where it was like the 20-25%, and where you could kind of really see where everything's going. And it was like, like that was so worth it. Like, I always hear it's like, it's like a slow start and then it takes a little bit to get going. And it's like, I would rather have that and set up the next 500 pages than have constant breaks in between where it's just like, oh, let me get you caught up on the backstory of what's going on here. So I think that was great.
Thank you.
And as far as that method of storytelling goes, I know Malazan was a massive influence on you with that. I'm still only 2 books into that, but is that kind of the route you're going to go with this? Is this going to be a trilogy, I should say, or are you going for more than that?
Goal here is 4 books. Malazan does something. So Steven Erikson has first of all, one of the most incredibly gifted writers I've had the pleasure of reading. Dead House Gates is probably my favorite book I've ever read. And it's mostly like, and again, for a book and plus 70%, I really didn't have my footing in that universe, like, at all. And then I get to that one scene in Dead House Gates towards the end, and I was floored, absolutely floored. So just to get that out of the way. Also, it's going to be a 4-book series. The main epic is going to be 4 books. Books 1 and 2 act as a single arc of the story. So the goal was to write a duology in the way that, like, Lord of the Rings is a trilogy, but really it's a single encompassing book. So, and plus, like, the proposition to, put out a 300 some odd thousand word first book is like, not exactly for a debut, is like not exactly clean. So I knew I was taking on a lot, and so I had to kind of go bird's eye view on it. And yeah, so books 1 and 2 are one arc. Books 3 and 4 will be another. In the way that, being that I started writing book 3, I've got almost 7,000 words drafted for it. The way that Malazan in books 1 and 2 takes you to a different place, I don't think that's a spoiler. I'm pretty sure that's like well known. Like book 1 you're in one place, book 2 you're in another. Books 1 and 2 of mine, it's book 2 is a continuation of the end of book 1, and we sort of follow on there. Book 3, on the other hand, I don't want to say too much. There's a bit of a jump generally. I'll say that, and I won't say when or where. And I'll just leave that pretty vague and open. But that said, there will be consistency. There will be something for a reader to latch onto between like, I'm not going to just throw you into another place and you're going to be expecting familiarity and not getting it. There will be some forms of familiarity for sure.
Which is relieving to hear, because I know that's one of the big turnoffs of some other series. But one of the things that impressed me so much about this was not just the story and the world building, but the characters along with it. A lot of them are the morally gray type that we're very familiar with the Joe Abercrombies of the world now, who is probably my personal favorite author at this point. But your characters are similar in that route, but also I feel like it's a little bit more of an emotional impact on all of them, especially after the prologue. I think I messaged you as soon as I was done with it, and I was like, dude, I was not really ready to jump into that right off the bat.
Yeah.
But how do you do such a kind of detailed and good job with the world building and also the character development to keep all of that in line?
Yeah, I think because I knew I had a feeling, of readers sort of being lost early. I was like, okay, how do I root them? And emotions was probably the biggest thing that I needed to try and root them in. And then it's like conveying emotions, showing them versus telling. And so there was like some work there that had to be done, obviously, in the early drafts. But I wanted to root the characters in these like deep, visceral emotions, and hopefully the reader would sort of like be able to connect. That was my goal, is to sort of like find a middle ground there. And I constantly get messages about that prologue, which is fun for me in a way, but that, I think rooting it in the emotions of the character. So I feel like something we can all relate to typically, with the exception, I'm sure, of some people, but like I feel like a negative self-talk and like resistance pops up in our lives at some point, right? Like we always have, we might talk down about ourselves to ourselves when nobody hears us. And I think like that semblance of shame that can spread in certain moments in the early parts of the book, that my goal was to, first of all, just be as authentic and real and true as I possibly could. And with the characters and the stories that I was telling with them, that seemed to be what showed up as real and authentic and true, especially when I was putting myself in their shoes. Right. So it was I won't say it was like a fine balance. It was just something that sort of just came naturally in like I tried to be as authentic as possible and tell it in as true of a way as I possibly could.
Yeah. Which came through 100%. It wasn't, sometimes you read something and it's, it gets the point across, but you're just like, it's a good story. And the way that they were written was just like, that's real. Like, that's kind of how it would be in real life. So I think that was, when you read the reviews of your book so far, it's a lot of heavy praise on the world building and the format and everything. But I just want to give some special shout out to the characters who
Thank you.
I thought deserved it. Who was your favorite character to write?
Hade. I tell everybody that. So Hade was my favorite. Any character with a scene where they're absolutely hammered, I think, is going to just be the top of my list. Also, he was just the easiest, right? I feel like him and my internal voice are pretty close. And then Salazmir was actually another that, which might be disturbing, was another that came rather easy. I think just because of his how dynamic he is as a character and how he moves from point. I'll just say point A to point B. He was a very complex character for me to write because of just how kind of despicable some of the things that he does are. but how honest he looks at himself, like how are dishonest, but as the reader are like how are you seeing this? Like that doesn't make sense, at least me as when I was working on him. And Viala actually was one that I ended up having. I was like nervous, you write a female character, you're like, oh no, like I'm a dude, are people gonna like rib on me for this? But I think her voice also came pretty authentically to me as well. And I tried again, same thing, like as much truth as possible with all my characters, but I think she was an easier character to write because of her role, like how she plays and fits into the world and how the world fits around her. It made it rather easy to kind of explore and sit in her shoes.
Yep. And all three great characters. Hate is awesome. But when I mentioned that they were morally gray, it kind of gets tied into is this a grimdark story or is this a dark fantasy type of thing? What do you consider it to be?
It's a dark fantasy, I think, especially I think the first book is particularly has a lot of aspects of like horror that like I keep getting. I don't know if Preacher reads, but he keeps telling, he's a big horror fan, and he tells me just how much horror is actually in my book, and I'm like, oh really? I had no idea. Genuinely, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it's definitely more dark fantasy. Epic in scope is really what I was going for primarily. I understand how people would look at the world as grim dark, particularly. I'm also in the camp that doesn't think Joe Abercrombie's grim dark, which is, I know it's, he's playing on the Lord Grimdark thing, but I've even heard him say that he's like, playing into the brand. But yeah, I look at those characters as just like human beings. Like we're not all perfect. We all have flaws. I think morality is often determined by humans justifying behavior, so yeah, I don't know, I kind of played into that. I'd say epic dark fantasy first. I think the world itself can get darker than dark for sure. I can see that. Yeah,
and there's a lot of surrounding elements in the world that could make it dark. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into spoilers or anything, but I thought the Blight was a very great ominous threat that was always kind of lurking in the background there. It gave off some 28 Days Later Rage Virus vibes. Yeah. And even though that was the vibe it put off, it felt unique and original. What made you want to have kind of like an infection disease type like that kind of lurking in the background?
Yeah, when I first drafted the world, I wanted a world that felt like it just came out of a violent reckoning. Genuinely, I wanted the good guys to have already won, but I wanted there to have been massive consequences for them to have to overcome now in the rebuilding of this post-apocalypse. That particular question was probably more provoked from like something like Elden Ring, where we walk into, where the Scarlet Rot is just manifesting itself throughout the world, that like section, that region of the world. That just like, I started asking myself, what if in the world was already that way in Elden Ring? And for me, I was like, okay, how is something like this kind of happen? And so this started to kind of take over a little bit in a way where I was like, okay, like they got out of this thing and it has, small ripple effects, and let's just see where this goes. And that's kind of where we got. So I always love a good zombie story. I can't say I don't. Yeah.
It's because they're awesome and a lot of fun, but it's hard at this point in time. The same thing with like vampires, all this type of stuff, to make it unique. So I thought the Blight was, and it was very cool whenever people influenced by it showed up. We're talking about horrors in the world. I know Elden Ring is a massive influence. I hope this doesn't cause of any break in our friendship here. I couldn't play it. I could not. I got so angry so quickly because I'm not a Dark Souls guy, but I heard Elden Ring was like, oh yeah, this is going to be the more mainstream Dark Souls for people that can't beat Dark Souls. And I was like, oh, word, that's me. I fucking suck. Yeah, I'm so bad at it, but it's beautiful to be around. The story's amazing, everything like that. Any advice I want to try again, but man,
Let me say this. I also hadn't really Dark Souled or Souls like. I hadn't gotten into any of them until Elden Ring. I played maybe like 5 minutes of Dark Souls 2 and then was like, all right, at like a Walmart or a Target or something. But Elden Ring, for some reason, there was just something about it that drew me into it, and that was what I wanted to recreate. But with Mercy, it's something I don't know, just something about that narrative. The narrative construction involves death, and it involves rebirth, and it involves being a nobody, and it involves like overcoming this being a nobody to get to X, Y, or Z. I would just say that that's a part of the experience. Sucking is like such a part of the experience, just as like reading the first 20 to 40% of my book you might feel like, oh, I don't really know where I'm at. My feet aren't on the ground yet. Peak kick here. That's so funny. But it is just about like being okay, being terrible for a bit, and then like slowly figuring it out. There are, I think, like non-spoiler guides out there to help your character kind of get a little stronger, so you have like kind of better odds going into certain fights, and just generally like finding your way. I will say, once you start once things start showing up to you from like outside sources, the sense of wonder is still there, but I do wish I can go back and having known nothing and just like playing fresh, just because that experience is just so one of a kind. And I don't know. I think it's a part of the experience of playing that game for sure. How you just played like a few hours or what? It was like
dude, like 4 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Like nothing. I was like playing it. Like I did like a part-time job. I would like come downstairs after. I have a 2-year-old, so like everyone would go to sleep, and I would be like, "It's time to relax," and I would turn on Elden Ring, and I did not get relaxed like that. No, the learning curve that needs to be like at noon or something, where you can just be like, "Nah, I'm getting lunch," but I'll give it a try. Greg with his fantastic advice. I know. So other video games, I know he's about to mention Expedition 33. Have you played that yet? Or
not? I actually have not had. I'll say I haven't made any time. I really haven't had time, but I'll say I haven't made time, because you could always make time. I haven't made time for video games recently, unfortunately. I dabbled in a little Helldivers 2, a little Diablo 4 here and there with a buddy from home back in Jersey. But yeah, no, unfortunately, that's a game on my radar to play. I also still have to play, although I know the Elden Ring DLC. I forgot the name of it. Oh, Shadow of the Erdtree. I haven't played it yet, which bugs me. It bugs me to death. Time is just so hard to come by for getting back on games. And I have like an addictive personality, and I'm competitive. So like when I hop on a video game with myself, I'm like, I just want to keep getting better. And Clair Obscur 33 is Expedition 33 is one of those games where I'm like, I know the story in this game is worth experiencing. I might resort to just like trying to watch like periodic playthroughs and see what happens. Yeah.
So yeah, that I heard that's also incredible. I'm like a quarter of the way through, but
yeah,
I'm not rage quitting yet. So I'm going to consider that a plus at the moment.
You like the tunes in there? I hear the OSTs are like amazing.
It's incredible. It's really like crazy that was put together by all. It was like, I think the developer was like I'm going to get it wrong, but like a Bungie or a BioWare side person. He did it as like a part-time thing. Like they found the guy who did the OST on like SoundCloud.
Wow.
The script writer was found on Reddit. It's
so
like
sick.
One of those. I feel like that's got to be. I've mentioned it like once or twice on previous episodes here, but it's funny to tie all that into you guys as indie writers, where it's like, of course, this game where it's all people who are just like in the trenches doing it themselves, like puts out a masterpiece. So
that's so sick.
Yeah, it's funny the way that comes back. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's so sick. I feel like I heard the SoundCloud thing, but I didn't know the writer was from a Reddit thread. That's crazy.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That is.
What other influences did you have besides the heavy duty ones that we've mentioned so far?
A little RuneScape. RuneScape shows itself in the books, here and there. Mostly the magic system. I kind of played with that a little bit. As I'm thinking, Malazan, of course. Tad Williams, I think, had more of an influence on me than I thought. Star Wars, I'm just a big I don't care what people say. The prequels were awesome, and obviously the originals were good. The prequels, I said, right, not the sequels.
Prequels, yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So prequels and originals were I love those. And yeah, they played. They have such influence in that like people are pointing out scenes like, oh, this is like a Star Wars thing, and I'm like, oh, I guess it is. It is kind of an homage to that. It just sort of like bled into my story as a whole. I love the cinematic Dunes, and I know people have complaints about them. And I love the cinematic Lord of the Rings. Obviously, I love the book Lord of the Rings as well. But if I'm being realistic about what influenced me more, the movies for sure, because I have, and I've said this before, I have about as much lifetime. I have as much watch time of those movies as I do life. That's like. Almost. It's almost the same.
And it's actually funny because I thought when I was reading the book that there was a couple of quotes I neglected to save them because I was doing the Kindle thing, but there was a couple of lines in there that almost could have come right out of Gandalf's mouth. And it was very good. I think I actually wrote one down. I do have one. Yes. Again, this is just me talking. If anyone wants me for Audible, I am available. There are those who appear weak who have a lot to offer. Never let appearance distract from ability. And it's like, I like that a lot. I made sure to put that in there because that was almost like a little talking to Pippin and Frodo talking about how the small people can do big things and everything. But I asked this question last week to Tim Wolf because he also throws out lines like that. But when you go back and reread what you've done and you see stuff like that and other ones, do you know instantly off the bat like fucking nailed it, or is that need to get pointed out to you and then you're like, yeah, I guess that was kind of good?
No, sometimes well, mostly is it getting pointed out to me, and it becoming people telling me they enjoyed it, and then me being like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess it is really cool. There's some. It's not so much that like, oh yeah, like I fucking nailed it. It was more so I'll finish a chapter and I'll feel like a reader, and I'll step back and be like, hell yeah, like that was awesome. Or like something bad happens and I'm like, oh fuck, like that sucks. But like to have that feeling, I think as a reader, I love emotion being evoked. And so when that happens, I'm like, okay, like that's a good sign. And there were several moments like that. It doesn't happen all the time. Usually like, I think with book 2, I've gotten better at it, like identifying those moments as a reader. And then like, yes, the beat itself provoked that feeling. And now it's about refining the actual, the voice around that experience. So although I might sit in a draft and really love a scene, there's still a way that it could probably be made better. And that's where I think the professional help really does play a big role, as just speaking like transparently as an indie author and to people who like are out there thinking about it. Or, I think traditional authors also, we often see stories come together, but I think there is so much that like editors deserve so much credit. But there are those writers out there who just are like one of one that can just write it and put it out there, of course. And I think that happens also with time. And I'm starting to see that with book 2 actually becoming a little bit easier, just as I'm finding, you find your voice and your rhythm and things get a little bit easier. But for the most part, it was me identifying like, yeah, wow, that was really good. But also there's still a lot of work associated with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, interesting to hear. It's got to be cool. Like the practice makes perfect. It's like so quoted and obnoxious because it's right. But it's nice to hear, like, especially coming off a debut and as you're writing book 2, it's like, oh yeah, I guess that actually kind of makes sense. One of the things I did want to give a special shout out to, because the book released on the 20th, right?
Yeah.
You are at over 850 sold. Yeah. Over 850 sold on Goodreads, 88 rating, 79 reviews, which as far as ratios go is wild.
Yeah, that's crazy.
23 in dark fantasy on Amazon, 23 in epic fantasy. Congratulations. Because that is Wild. Was that just beyond what you were expecting at that point?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna be honest. I thought I was gonna. I thought I was gonna hit #1 on new releases on day one. The way that the algorithm worked, all the like digital pre-orders hit on day one, but I don't know what happened. It just didn't quite work out that way. But I wrestled back, and things trickled in. You start getting the Kindle Unlimited stuff coming in. And it's important to mention that the top 25 was in new releases. Also, it's not necessarily bestsellers. I'm sure that will come. I'm confident that it will, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being confident and like wanting to be great. I think that's important. Generally speaking, like what after that that's a whole other conversation. But to be, and I'm not saying I am great, by the way, but I'm wanting to be, and over 850 copies sold was I didn't expect to be here, honestly. I literally thought I was gonna have 10 sales when I announced the cover release. I was like, okay, like maybe 10 people are gonna buy this book. And in the launch, right, in that first month, and 850, I just didn't see it coming. I'm putting things into place to try and get a bunch of new readers this weekend, so maybe we can get up to 1,000 by the second week, which would be a crazy milestone to hit generally, let alone in the second week. And I think that would be something that I can, I think currently, considering other avenues of which to tell this story, that's a thing that can play pretty big for me. It's sort of important, and also it's important to mention when you write a book. And you want to write a series, I think authors often, especially because of some other authors who haven't finished their series, you run into, people not buying book ones because they're worried that the series isn't going to be finished. No matter what I'm going to write the series, it's just a matter of like, how much capital do I have to put into the following projects to get the book out? Literally, that's what it comes down to. Fortunately, there's some things setting me up to get book 2 in the editing process sooner, which is great, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's still looking on track, and it's a matter of just like kind of keeping that ball rolling so that we can do some cool things. And obviously, I love cool art, so I love plugging extra money into cool art. It's
worth it.
Yeah, so
it really is. Cool art is the difference between being like, maybe, and instantly buying it.
Yeah.
Like I found, especially like I go to a lot of concerts, and I used to see, poster art and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And like the last thing you want to do is walk around a concert for 3 hours with one of the poster tubes on you. But sometimes you see it, and it's like, here's my $50. I'm going to be inconvenienced for the rest of the night, but
yeah,
that's a good investment to put it back in there. But a really good question coming in. What marketing strategy did you use to get so many eyes on the book?
Yeah, totally. Well, initially it wasn't a strategy per se at the beginning. When I first set out to I knew I was writing a book and I wanted to put it out there, my brain was like, okay, I just need one reader. If I can get one reader, I'll be fine. I get one reader, and then they'll tell somebody about it. Then I'll have 2 readers, and then so on and so forth. And that's kind of like really what I was looking for. In the age of social media, we now have access to one reader plus whoever follows them, which is cool. It's cool in a way. But the real focus was getting one reader. Hopefully they like it generally. Before all that, I should say that making a good product was #1 on my list. Writing a good story, telling a good story was #1 on my list. There was nothing that mattered more than that to me. And then it was single reader. I'll say, like, I started making my videos on YouTube. I think I have like 1 or 2 that I made. I was just like, I'll pick up my camera. I'm going to write like top 5 books that I would take to an apocalypse, because I binge watched the Fallout show in like a day with my roommate out in California, which I had never done that with a show before, which is crazy. But that one just like hooked me. I was like, okay, what books would I take with me in an apocalypse? So I did that, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'd been a fan of BookTube for a little bit, and I was like, let me do that. And I was like, all right, I could probably just talk about my writing a little bit, and because it's related to the books, and I had this old manuscript up there. This says this is the front of my book, this is the side of my book. It's like a 8x11 like textbook, and I just showed that in a video, and I was like, I'm going to talk about my writing. I'm going to do reading and writing updates. I'm going to talk about what I'm reading. I'm going to talk about what I'm writing, mostly as like a piece of reflection for myself. And I figured sharing it not in like a preachy way or lecturing way, but just in like, if this is what I'm going through, this is my experience, helped me a lot. I think there were a lot of people that came on board and saw that, and then I started becoming a part of the community. There were people like Esme who came out and really pointed me in the right direction of where to go. Guys like Slay in the booktube community that were, again, really helpful, pointing me in the right direction to go. And then there's also just everybody else who's like a creator in that community, and how warming and welcoming everybody is. It made getting this book out there a lot easier, I'll say, for sure. But again, it just comes back to I'm never going to not be myself, and I think that's apparent from my commentary on all of my captions on all my posts and things of that nature, and how I talk in my videos. I think that as long as that comes out, and again, it goes back to truth. And if I'm ever not telling the truth, I think somebody's going to be able to identify that. And I think you can understand this too, Pete, because you're a New Yorker. I'm from Jersey, but you're a New Yorker. And so I think you kind of have an idea of what authentic looks like and what real looks like. And I also kind of use that, and to juxtapose that to living in California for a while. Not saying anything bad about California. People there are great. Also, everyone's so relaxed. I'm like, there's no way anybody is this happy. But I mean, it makes sense that they are, because our weather out here on the East Coast is much worse.
Seriously.
Yeah. So, but that was all very important to me. Absolutely.
Which is a great answer. I know someone, Gina, saying get book talk on this. I'm sure they are, and it's been growing and populating. And like you said, Esme rules. Everyone else on BookTube has been awesome. And like you said, I think, especially watching like your videos and everything, and like talking with you and then reading it, the most important thing for me, like I already mentioned, was that I think what you've written was real, and it came across as that. I started doing this because I like talking to all of you guys. Everyone's so talented and very cool, which is also a very pleasant surprise. But I like coming in and talking about just general stuff, like starting off talking to you and making Jets jokes. Like, granted, they're the Jets. They're easy jokes to make. Yeah, but jokes. I feel like it's a very big benefit to just be yourself and talk and get that vibe out there, because it comes across very non-manufactured. Like you can always tell the people who are on like an interview or something, and they get the softball questions, and it's just like, did you enjoy doing this? And they're like, it feels fake. Yeah. So that's why like I come in. I don't know if it bothers anyone. I haven't asked, but I don't like send you questions to like beforehand. And like someone asked me that before. They were like, do you let them know what you're gonna ask? And I was like, no, that would suck. Like you're just gonna, like, it just feels weird. So I feel like what you've done along the way, as far as the videos and the promotion and the marketing, all of it was great, and it's paying dividends in regards to the talent of you that goes along with it. But I feel like your general vibe and demeanor as just like a very cool and genuine person really just like drives the point home. I feel like that type of stuff goes a long way to being like, I was on the fence about getting that, but I listened to him talk, and cool dude, cool girl, like cool whoever, and it leads to that.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying all that, seriously. And I agree. I think all these, I call them conversations because they are conversations. It's like you're sitting here just chatting. Like that's really at the end of the day what it is. I never go into, and this is like generally speaking, I never go into conversations thinking about what I'm going to talk about, which maybe can bite me in the ass at some point. But I same thing with my videos. I literally, I put my phone in this little ring light my sister gave me. I taped my microphone into a lightsaber, if that isn't apparent. And then I literally just go, and whatever is said, if I screw up, I don't care. I just never have. I'm like, this has to be it, because if not, then I'm not going to have fun doing it. I'm not going to have fun sitting there trying to give you the perfect line. I'm just not. It's just not something that works for me. And at the end of the day, like, as cheesy as it is, I want to have fun. Like, I don't want this to feel not fun. Right.
Mm. Which is working. I do have to give Alex another shout out, because he did send me. I had questions on the docket for that one, in the spirit of honesty. It worked out well, but one of the other things that you actually already answered, but I did want to lead into just some rapid fire stuff. My first question was going to be if you could recommend one book for someone to read in a weekend, what would it be?
Ooh, in a
we
weekend.
talked about it a little bit because of the Fallout thing, but if you had one book for a weekend, what would it be?
Terminal List. It's a thriller. It's outside of fantasy, and you can binge the first book of that one easy. Also, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. As I honestly, that book was just honest. It was very good and very quick and very easy to read.
Good movie too.
I still got to see that. It's got Aragorn in it. I got to see it.
Yeah, it does. Vigo's awesome.
Yeah,
like Vigo. He's Aragorn, but every time you see him, whether it's in like Eastern Promises, it's just like nice.
No,
like just yeah, he really is. He's what was it? A History of Violence. Everything he's in, he kind of just, dude, really sick.
Yeah, I keep seeing
good movie
pop up, and I'm like, ooh, I got to see this.
Mm-hmm. What is a book that you've read recently that needs to be a show or a movie?
Any Sun Eater book, and Sun Eater needs to be a show. It would be Game of Thrones on steroids. It would be the visuals, the universe, the characters. That series needs an adaptation. And I've met Christopher Rocchio. I think I've talked to him about it. I think we talked to him about it in a conversation, like an interview. Myself and Jake from Nerd Level Rising chatted with him. I think he's open to it. I can't remember. I know that there's a lot of like want to get into animation for a lot of sci-fi stories because of the scale and what you can do with it, which would be really cool. But that is one that I think needs a show, no matter what.
That's a good one. What world would be your least favorite to live in?
Ooh. Probably Malazan, huh? It's like a lot of. If I was in the Seven Cities in Malazan, that would be terrible. But if you're on a better continent like Genabacus, you feel probably a little bit better, at least in the early books, depending. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think that world would be one I don't want to live in.
It's a really good answer. I always just go with something Michael Fletcher based because you just die in every way possible. But yeah,
that. By the way, that is an author I have not read, but he has been on my radar, and his reputation I hear precedes him. So
quite good. And I asked him like when I had him on if he felt bad about anything, and he was very adamantly not repentant about the way everyone dies, which I think like we have a similar vibe to it. So it was just like, oh, nice. Like you don't want to hear someone just be like, well, yeah, I felt bad about my fake person dying.
Yeah.
But,
that's a good point.
But what is your who I should say is the most underrated character of all time?
Underrated character of all time. He's outshined. I don't know if he's underrated. He's only underrated because there's another character in the same series, and I'm speaking of Logan Nine Fingers as the underrated character because I think Glocka just gets so much shine. But Logan Nine Fingers to me is a bit underrated. And also Obi-Wan Kenobi, my boy Obi-Wan, underrated.
Two really good answers.
I think, and I know that they're like, they get their shine and all that, but like, I don't know, they're not talked about nearly enough.
Yeah, they're really not, because Glocka is ridiculous. Like, probably one of the top characters of fantasy for me. Maybe just in general, but yeah, Logan, very not as widely praised, but yeah, deserves it.
Oh yeah.
And then finally, what would your Mount Rushmore of fantasy be?
Oh, like authors?
Yeah, I was gonna say books, but yeah.
Oh, of books, it's Deadhouse Gates, Howling Dark. Ooh, I'll put the entire Book of the New Sun up there. Ooh, I'm between Gene Wolfe. Oh, wait, sorry, I said Gene Wolfe. I'm between Tad Williams and Joe Abercrombie. I constantly battle back and forth. Like they're so different, but they're so good for different reasons. Ooh, shoot. I read Tad Williams first, so let's put him up there at number 4. And Joe Abercrombie's just trying to chisel away at Tad's face. I mean, that's fitting.
That worked
Yeah,
out well, yeah. He's on the
yeah,
back like Voldemort in book one.
yeah.
He's still up there, just not
Ooh,
in the
Hobb is
board
another
fight.
good one. Robin Hobb is another good one. Oh, that's such a tough question, but I'm gonna stick with my four.
That's a good four.
Yeah.
Um, Hearing that book two has did you said you're done with it? That now we're starting the edit process of it.
Yeah, so it's in alpha reading right now. I have 20 to 25 readers with their hands on it, and yeah, I'm expecting notes back in roughly 2 weeks, and I will either I'm going to go over the notes myself. I'm going to go over them with some of the readers. I'm probably going to do a recorded video with a bunch of those who are creators on YouTube, and then put it up probably after the release. But that is like sort of just getting notes like overall, like what are the beats that everybody likes, what are the beats that everybody, if there are there is there consistently a beat that everybody doesn't like, is that something that is something that I will go into heavy. But barring that and like little things that I'll go in and like tweak, I'm expecting to send it to my editor Dave by hopefully the end of August would be a great goal to hit. So that'd be roughly a 2-week turnaround, depending on my ability as to write and edit and revise.
So my question is, it's a hard one and it's more personal preference, but with the way that you write, how do you go about the process? Kind of making sure that you keep yourself accountable for this world that you're building. Because now, especially that the first book's out, you have fans. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I need book two, and I'm not going to be like a dick about it. But how do you hold
yeah,
yourself accountable and make it not a chore? Like you said, you want it to be fun. You don't want this to turn into something where it's like, oh, kind of dreading this. Like,
yeah,
we've seen people kind of turn on others for taking too long, and I'm not saying that's going to happen to you, but
yeah,
what's your process like to, always be moving forwards?
yeah. I can bet on my ability to work hard. Period. I'm confident in my ability and my work ethic. There's just no doubt in my mind. If I need to get something done, I usually do. And when it comes to releasing books and getting them out to people and sitting down and actually doing the work and writing and putting this book one out, I am definitely learning new parts of the process. For example, like the conversations that I'm having with you and conversations I have with other readers this last 2 weeks has taken me away from having my hands on the keyboard and writing, which is fine because I know my ability as a writer to get behind the keyboard and work. And also my responsibility does come back to getting book two out before I even focus on book three, genuinely. I did write books 1 and 2 side by side, like before putting book 1 out there. Book 2 is already done. I'm not sure I'm going to do that with books 3 and 4. I'm going to play that by ear. And I'm going to be transparent about it always and tell people kind of like what's going on. I think I might. It just really depends on the release schedule. The goal is to have book 2 out by the end of March, and I think that I'm capable of achieving that. Yeah, I think to stay accountable to getting behind the keyboard is just about like work ethic. Like, am I willing to do the work to get from point A to point B? Anytime I've had a block when I'm sitting down and writing a block, I put quotes around that because I literally just like take that block and I jam it on the keyboard until words come out. And if I have to delete 500, 1,000, as many words as I have to write that I know maybe are not going to mean anything to discover what comes next, I will do that. And that has guided me through 2 books. And so that's something that I'm just going to kind of keep working with. It's a matter of and this is a Stephen Pressfield thing, who wrote Gates of Fire. He wrote The War of Art, which I recommend to anybody. Overcoming the resistance of like saying I suck is mostly like me telling myself that I suck. Getting over that has come from The War of Art. That book is absolutely fabulous. And then he also wrote another one called Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be. And so those are like sort of not litanies, maybe, where I'm just like, okay, I have a standing desk, so I have to put my ass in front of the desk. But if I want to write, I got to put myself in front of the keyboard and I got to write, right? So, yeah, and it's what I want to do. It's what I enjoy doing. So at the end of the day, if that stays true, then that's all that matters for me. If I'm having fun behind the keyboard and I having been doing this for, I mean, I've only been doing it for roughly 3 years. I'm loving it, and I don't want my creative energy right now to go into anything else. Like, as much as I love playing guitar, I love that. Songwriting is not on the top of my list. It's something that I will play with here and there to just like, it's cathartic. If something like hits me, I'll do it. Same thing with poetry. If something hits me, I'll just I'll sit and I'll type it on my phone. But getting behind the keyboard and actually doing the work for this story needs to be told, and I'm going to tell it. That's just the way it is, as long as I'm alive.
That's awesome. Have you read Stephen King's book on writing?
Yes. Yeah. That was a big one.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was another one that is full of great advice, and
yep.
It's always good to hear, people that I look up to author-wise give advice like that. Like, I've had one or two ideas, and it's always come back to, like you just said, where, it's the way you mentioned the block, where like it doesn't matter if you have to delete 500, 1,000 words, anything like that. It's sitting down or standing and getting it out there. I've said that I've had like a false start in the past where it's like, oh, I changed jobs. Oh, this happened. Oh, this. And the general input is, if you always kind of wait, it's like having a kid where it's like, if you wait to the perfect time, there's never going to be a perfect time, and it just won't happen. So it's nice to hear from all of you guys. It's almost like making like a gumbo of good advice.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear it, how everyone goes about doing it their own way. So it's inspiring to hear. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I say your project's fantasy that you can have like floating around. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with setting a timer for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whichever time you got, and just like, forcing your ass in a chair. But yeah, I think it's cool if you got a story to tell. There's something urging you to tell it. I think it's always worth exploring at the very least.
As far as the next releases go, what do you think is going to be the biggest input, the biggest takeaway that you have based on how book one went, that you're going to do going forwards as far as releasing indie goes?
Yeah. There's some like marketing resources I'm gonna handle differently. I think I'm still going to use them, but there's going to be sort of like I'm gonna add some gateways in terms of the marketing, in order to being that I have the luxury of having people who have enjoyed book one. I'm going to just make a submission form for probably physical arcs mostly. I'm still going to do the giveaways. I think that was really fun for me to do. And also, it's just like, I don't know, it's always great to have. I actually learned a bunch of like new sandwiches by doing that, which was cool. People just get in my comments telling me their favorite sandwiches. Yeah, I don't know. I think mostly when it comes to the writing part of it, it's just always going to be dynamic. There's always going to be things moving around. I'm going to have to make, changes here and there, and it's a part of it. And you really do kind of get down to the last minute. And also, it's just how many hats I got to wear. The marketing hat and the business hat is I understand. I can look at it from a bird's eye view and understand that I am good at it. It is making it fun is a job in itself sometimes. Just because you're like, okay, I did this or that, but it's also like, I love talking about this, so it's easy for me to do. That part is probably gonna takes the most bandwidth, I think, just because of like all the unknowns that kind of go into it. But it is a part that I have to do, and I think a lot of I know that having conversations is considered a part of that, but to me, it's like talking about the characters and the story. And I have been itching to talk to people about at least just the first book alone, let alone what happens at the end of this second book. So I think I may like put a bunch of conversations in the same day, just maybe do some more group conversations. That's something that I'm kind of playing with in my head, but we'll just see it as it goes. I'm very loose with my my planning. Obviously, I set deadlines. I hit them, and then I go from there. Everything else is kind of like swing for the fences.
And it's worked out. I saw today Shane Boyce had I think it was the first half of his year or the biggest month so far. You're on there. You showed up in Grimdark magazine. The people that are reading it and loving it are really big. Pete reviews books good.
Oh yeah,
Gave a great review. So
yeah,
I mean, he's like
yeah. That's probably
written
the best one.
gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, fellow Jeff fan. I think.
um, and then just to end on kind of a more fun note, I know that you were also just mentioning that you write poetry, you play guitar. What do you like doing to unwind and enjoy in the spare time? Say the computer is dead, the charger's gone. What do you like doing?
Yeah, that's been tough lately. I like sitting down on the couch with the girlfriend watching some TV. I like if it's just me on my own, I usually try to opt for reading about as much as I can lately, as much time as I kind of get for it. Just because I miss being able to have as much time to read. Those are the two big ones, I think. Oh, and eating. Just like, I mean, we live in New York, just like eating, it's like a big
fire. Eating rules.
Yeah, eating rocks. Yeah.
Are you stuck on any of the girlfriend shows? Because I'm stuck on the wife shows, and some of them are great, and some of them, wow.
Summer I Turn Pretty's on every once in a while.
I heard that was good, actually.
Yeah, so I tune in occasionally. That one I'm not like I can kind of follow, like I can pick up the beats. I'm like, okay, this is good to go. There's one, Hunting Wives, which she puts on, and then I'm like, whoa, what kind of show is this? And she's like, I think I'm just gonna watch this by myself. I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. But yeah, I really want to get her to watch Parks and Rec, and I'm having such a hard time doing that.
No, to Chance's girlfriend, watch Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece.
It is. It really is. I think it's my favorite sitcom. But otherwise, I think as far as like her shows, if I'm sitting in there and she throws one on, she's usually okay. If I'm like, I'm gonna pick up my book and like, put on some ambience and just read for a bit, and we sit with each other. But yeah, it just depends. Yeah, that's so funny. What are the wife shows?
Well, first off, she popped in to say, I know what help doesn't unwind the Jets, which
just increases stress.
It's horrible. And they'd lay down outside in like a puddle of water right now. But we were commiserating when Justin Fields got carted off recently, and he was like riding shotgun like a golf cart. Like that doesn't count. That's not a getting carted off. Like
these beat reporters are looking for clicks.
Horrible. Everyone's terrible. Everything sucks. Again, hopefully she logged off, but I work from home now a couple of days, so I went upstairs to have lunch with her today. She had The Valley on, which is like a Vanderpump Rules spinoff.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Holy shit. It is bad. Like, this is the only one. Most of the time I'm cool. Like, we watch Summer House, and I'm like, okay, no one in here is nice, but like I could watch it. A lot of like murder documentaries and stuff, which is fun. Like there's a lot of cool stuff. We were watching The Pit, which I don't know.
Yeah. That was a great show. And I would not, like, again, she started without me, and I was like, came on board. I was like, you're not watching this without me anymore. I was like, this is good. That was a great show.
Amazing. But yeah, this was the only one where like, dude, like I was on my lunch break today. I'm watching like 45-year-olds argue in a Dave and Buster's, and I'm like, what is happening to me?
Yeah, I think Love Is Blind is on the list for UK version. I will say this.
Blind is great.
I will say this. I do have a guilty pleasure for like Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, Golden Bachelor. I think it's because my parents grew up watching it, and they would like let me sit in and watch. And so there's something about that in particular. Not any of the other ones, like no Love Island, none of the other. Like I don't. But like for some reason, I don't know. Bachelor in Paradise I think they have become like sort of a mirroring of those. I don't know. There's just something about that show that just like draws me back to watch it. I can't.
It's very addicting.
Yeah, I have to admit, I can't even lie. It just gets me.
See, authentic talk. Bachelor in Paradise is fire. Well, it used
Yeah.
to be. I think the last
Yeah, it
time I
used to
watched it
be.
was when that dude Jordan threw that dude off the gazebo. Or,
Oh, I think it's the same for me. I'll say this: this season where we are watching, it's airing every week, and it feels. I mean, I'm liking it. It's interesting. Maybe because it's been so long since I actually tuned in, but I'm liking it so far for sure.
all right, so I'll dive back in. She's still on. Laura, we'll watch Bachelor in Paradise because
Yeah.
Chance recommended it. So
Yeah, they
we'll
go to
go
a
with
different. I
that.
think they're in Costa Rica instead of I think they were always in Mexico, but now they're in like this nice like resort in Costa Rica. It is a little cinematic, like they do like play on that. Like the writers like it took some liberties for sure. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I'm enjoying it at least so far.
Doable. It's good unwind time.
Yeah, yeah,
Much
exactly.
so that works out.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask because I still need to get. It kind of works out well that I'm asking this. I need a
sure.
physical copy, and
Yeah,
I would like to pay you directly and not Jeff Bezos.
right.
Um, where would people go if they didn't want to give a trillionaire more money?
Yeah, I went over that in my brain today too, which I was like, man, we really like, especially if you just which is not, I'm not down talking Ingram. I think I'm grateful that they're able to do my dust jackets and everything, but I have to start listing my paperback through the KDP store because it's just like it's kind of unsustainable if you just keep it on Ingram. But I think that's good for holders like other distributors. I did do a pre-sale on my site. I will. There's something in the works right now for a signed edition hardcover. Um, that it's not a trillionaire company. It's a smaller company. It's not in the U.S. But they will be doing the goal. Like we've had talks, and the goal is that they'll do a signed copy. I signed those tip-ins last week, which just means that they put them in the book. So as long as that's all good, they're going to start listing it for pre-sale. There will be X number of copies available on that site. Once that's done, I will start offering. I think monthly. What I'll do, and I'm just throwing this in the air. I'm going to try and take orders for like the first week of every month, and then the back half of the month will be up to deliveries and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That that said, it was very challenging and kind of last minute putting together to do the work. Like my sister, my mom, and my girlfriend helped, but it's like that is like another whole job. So if at that point I'm just like just get the book at ease of access for
Mm-hmm.
like
Exactly.
yeah, if I unfortunately, if I had like, if I had employees able to do all that stuff all the time, it'd be a different story. Or like if I was closer, like in proximity to family, it would make
Mm-hmm.
more sense. But it's just with my current schedule, it's so much easier for me to say I'm going to offer hard copies on my site than it is to actually execute on it. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then executing on all that is so I commend people who do it. And I do intend to, I do intend to, or at the very least, like putting together events where like I'll order a bunch of books and I'll go to play somewhere and tell people I'm going there, and whether they can or cannot get there is like fine. If I walk away with a bunch of books, whatever, and then maybe I'll go from there and list that number on the website. That might be something I'm open to. But yeah, just right now, it's just I say just keep track of my updates. They'll tell you everything as it happens. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm throwing my hat in the ring if you need more help with something. I am down to meet up during a Jets game,
Oh
and
yeah, we should honestly get to a Jets game.
we'll do that regardless. But once,
Yeah.
as long as we're not at the game, when they start to fucking blow it, we'll just sign some books. I'll just like open it and slide it to you. I'll be your little minion for one of
Yeah.
the 1 o'clock games. But I think I listed your social medias on the stream actually for the first time. I was
Nice.
updating it, so I think they have that. But just in case it's not there, I can't see it on StreamYard. But where can people find you on the socials?
Honestly, if you go to chancedillonauthor.com, all my socials, you can find them, like the clickable links on there, and they'll take you right there. It's like the easiest way, I think, for people to kind of get it.
Perfect. And again, this was awesome. I am super glad that you said yes and wanted to join me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was definitely looking forward to it. Again, I'm going on record and saying one of Tim Wolf letting me know socials are in the video description. Perfect. Click those. I did good. But I am going on record again. I'm saying one of the best debuts of recent memory. I am very much looking forward to book 2. I'm looking forward to book 1 of another series when you decide to do that.
Yeah.
I think as far as initial impressions go, this is a lasting one, and I think anyone who does read it is going to follow you as time goes on. I think this was as strong of a book, not just of a series, but in general, as I've read recently. So I just wanted to give you another round of praise for that. Very well done, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, man. I mean, it genuinely does mean the world. That's thank you. That's I'm grateful you picked it up and you were let me forward you one. That's yeah, grateful you read it, man. Super.
Of course. So everyone in the chat, you know where to go find it now, and he said I would get 10% of any copy bought in the next hour. So if you could follow those and do that, that's perfect. Thanks for joining, everybody, and Chance, thanks for joining, man. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. I'm gonna hang a little.
Have a good night, everybody.